Hand embroidery intrigues me, always has. Today, Wendy Schoen shares her method for making flower petals. Wendy is a master embroiderer and makes everything easy with her step-by-step methods. Melody Good has fascinating techniques for sewing on fleece. I kind of laugh, and Melody says she has low sew and no sew for you. We're going to have fun. Amy Rine will help you dress your dolls. I enjoy sharing my collection of antique garments week after week, and many of these garments are laden with embroidery. I can only imagine the hours spent by a woman with needle in hand, creating lovely work one stitch at a time. Join me as we learn hand embroidery and sewing machine techniques today in my sewing room. I'm very honored that you are here. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today Melody Good. Melody is the corporate home economist for Hancock Fabrics. Melody, welcome to the show.
So great to be back again, Martha.
And those adorable projects you brought.
Fleece is very easy to work with, a lot of fun. Can't really make a mistake on working with fleece. This fun project is a hat, and it comes in 3 different sizes. But as you can see, we can decorate it in many ways. You can have your children help you pick out the color combination, and even with the fleece being so forgiving, they can even help participate on putting this together. We have a muzzle piece. It's a 3-inch circle. The nose piece is about a 1-inch circle. Then you can do machine or hand embroidery for the eyes, the mouth. We've appliqued the ear in place, and then use ribbons or the fleece to finish off the ears. To start off with, we have a diagram. For that diagram, again, you cut out your pieces and then you just randomly position them. There's not a real definite place to position them. What you need to keep in mind is there's a 1/4-inch seam, so don't put it too close to the outside edge or it'll get cut off when you stitch your seam together. So you just arrange it pretty much the way you want. And if you want to have a whimsical look to it, you can have it a little bit crooked. When you put all those pieces in place as a diagram, then you pin those in place. We highly recommend that you use a stabilizer on the back side. When you're stitching with fleece, you'll know that your stitching sinks down inside your fleece and tends to cause a pucker if you don't use the stabilizer. So you need to pin the stabilizer on the back area of where you plan to do your stitching. That will stabilize it and keep everything nice and straight. Once you've done that, you then take your pieces, put your front and your back hat together, right sides together. Fleece sometimes is difficult to tell the right and the wrong side. So I usually mark mine, not quite as dark as this, but I put a marking or I pin the wrong side. So when I'm working with it, it works out that way. Place your right sides together. You need to use a mat. Then I use a decorative wave cutter to cut the edge. Once that's been cut, you can then stitch the hat together. Once you have your pieces appliqued onto the hat, you can again, as we've done here, take a button and you can hand stitch a button, but keep in mind the age of the child. If it's a young child that may chew the button off and swallow it, you really would want to do some hand embroidery work there. Again, you can use a permanent marker to draw the muzzle area, or you can hand embroider that area. Then depending on how you'd like to finish it off, we can take and use ribbon, or you can take fleece. When you're working with fleece, I've taken 3 strips of fleece. You would just put it around the ear. You need to tie this in a square knot. And a lot of fleece, if you play with it as you pull it, depending on the grain that you're cutting it in, will stretch. So once you have that done, you can then pull up your fleece and create little curls and a little bit of hair decoration to finish off your hat. But you can have a lot of fun with fleece. Again, this can be a very easy project for a child to make. Then they can give them as gifts, but you can be quite decorative with the piece when you finish off.
Now, you know where I would love to see a project like this? I've had a little bit of experience this year working in a 1st grade classroom. And all you have to do, Melody, to do a project is take a couple of sewing machines in, let the kids, do what, and they could even sew it by hand. And then with a couple of sewing machines, this would be a wonderful project to do for kids sewing in a classroom.
Well, they can play dress up, they can create their favorite character. They can have a lot of fun. Be warm.
Oh, well, we love fleece for that, but I'm telling you, kids really love to sew. And I just love that little project because it would be easy enough to do. And of course, 4-H and Girl Scouts and all these wonderful organizations that are teaching children sewing, and that's a real critical thing, I believe.
Definitely is.
For all of us that love to sew, is to pass it on to a young person. And now Melody has a Sew Quick, Sew Easy project for you. Melody, I absolutely love these low sew projects. Tell us about this pillow.
This pillow is a low sew project, very easy to make. You have a solid and a contrast and a plaid. You basically cut rectangular pieces, you cut small slits, tie those together. Once you have your strip of fabric form, then you have one seam to sew on the sewing machine.
Right there it is.
That's
it.
The low
Everything
sew.
else is low sew. Okay.
And tied together. Very quick and easy to do.
This is so cute. This little child's vest.
And this is actually no sew.
No sew.
No
All right,
sew.
let me turn it around here so our viewers can see.
It's cut all in one piece. Then you cut the little fringe on the side and tie those into square knots, and you're ready to go.
Cute. Now I have to show also. This is a no-sew too.
Little
A
headband.
little headband. Oh, can you imagine the little granddaughters that would love that? And this is so warm and comfortable. I just absolutely love it. Tell me about this.
Well, this is our Team Spirit scarf, or just a scarf to keep you warm, but you have your little pom-poms built into the hands with the fringe. Can be made out of one color, or you can make it out of school colors.
School colors, sure.
You can make it out of prints and solids. There's many, many combinations, and the kids just love making these, giving them as gifts, and also wearing. It's very, very quick and easy. Let me show you
Now,
how.
these are the no-sew too.
This is all no sew on this
no-sew.
particular
Okay.
project. The basic rectangular scarf is a 60 by 8 inches wide.
Okay.
You cut a pocket out of the fleece, 8 inches by 8 inch square. The next thing you need to do is mark 7 slits, 1/2 inch from the top, starting in 1 inch from each side, but you center the 1/2 inch slit, and you can do that very easily with a small rotary cutter. It cuts the right size slits. So it's important to do the 7 slits across the top with the rotary cutter. Once you have those done, you need to have pieces that are 1 inch by 12 inch. For the top edge of the pocket, and one of the important things about the top edge of the pocket, fleece stretches more one way than the other. For the top edge of this pocket, you need it to be stable. So pull it and make sure that's the most stable side before you cut it. So we've cut our 7 slits. We then need to take and push the fringe through, and then you tie these into square knots. Once you have the top of the pocket done, you then take it, place it on top, then you have to cut your slits down the 2 sides and across the bottom. Once you have that done, you then insert this through your 2 layers, tie this in a knot on each end, and then you have your scarf.
Oh, I just love this. Oh, it feels so comfortable.
Then I have another quick and easy warming project, and this is a neck warmer. You basically take either a solid or 2 contrasting colors. It's about 9 by 29 inches. You sew one complete long side, you sew down the other side, leave a 4-inch opening, then complete that stitching area. Once you have that stitched, you need to take it, turn it right side out. In following the instructions, this may seem confusing, but it's important that you do this. This is how the twist, it's a scarf with a twist. You take the 2 opposite sides, you twist it so you match up the contrasting colors. You pin that both places. Once you have that pinned, you pull it back through that 4-inch opening. You then sew around that edge, pull it back through, sew up that end, and you have your neck scarf with a twist.
And that just slips over the head. Now, you know I almost should put this on, so I would have 2 matching pieces, but that just slips over the head. Talk about something that'll be wonderful and warm. It's awfully cute, too.
Very
And
cute,
see, we've
very,
got school
very
colors.
easy.
I might add that these were my school colors in Scottsboro, Alabama. So
Great.
I love the black and the gold.
Well, they
I
can be
think
just your favorite colors.
your
or they
favorite
could be
colors
your
or your school colors.
School colors.
Melody, thank you so much for being
you,
here.
Martha.
And now I have a doll dressing segment for you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today, Amy Rine. Amy is project manager for Middleton Doll. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I can't wait for you to tell us. I think we're going to talk about fitting and measuring for dolls today. Babies.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Amy, this is beautiful with the smocking and the smocked bonnet.
Yes.
Talk to me about this neckline. I think you were saying it's pretty easy to do.
Well, what's really important to know is that if you have a pattern for a 20-inch doll, that not all 20-inch dolls are the same. It may be a pattern for an infant, it could be a toddler, it could be a child. So it's really important that you take measurements and double check yourself before you start anything. The most important measurement on the doll would be the neck. And you need to use a tape measure that is quite small.
Tiny.
Narrow. And if you don't have one that's small like this, you could even use a string. You're going to go around this neck of the baby. And because of the vinyl, there's a very small space there, so it's kind of hard to do. But you want to check that measurement to make sure that your pattern's going to work. The next measurement that's really important is the tummy. And if the baby's been played with, or if brother's been around the baby, the tummy may not be the same as when it was brand new. So it's important to check that whole tummy measurement to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And something that you might not think about, but it's really important, is if the baby's a thumb sucker, you need to measure all the way around that entire thumb, because it doesn't change. So any sleeve that's coming on and off of that, you've got to get it over that thumb. The same goes for the little feet. The feet have shape to them and they never bend. So if you need to make a romper with feet, you have to know how much extra fabric you need for that. Also, this baby shows that it has very bent legs. Even though it's a soft body skin and it's not vinyl, there's a lot of curve there and there's a lot of curve here. Now, if these pieces were vinyl, it makes it even harder to fit. But we're going to show you some things that help with that. The first thing is the neck, which we mentioned just briefly, this dress.
Okay, the neck on this
That
one.
neck is really easy to do. It comes right up to the vinyl. It's not hard to do. It fits easily. This one's a little harder to do.
It has a little tailored collar, doesn't it?
Yes, and if you want to do a collar like that, you want to make sure you don't have a collar band, that it just rolls flat and smooth up against the chest. The other thing on this is the sleeves.
The arms. Let me pull. You know what, Amy? This doll has a wonderful.
Yes.
Let me pull this sleeve up here so we can see the cloth arms that join to the vinyl.
Yes.
Now, that has to be dealt with, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And we have the way this blouse is done. It's got a little cuff with the knit underneath it, which helps it go over the thumb. But we also have a flat piece that looks like a regular sleeve here. But what you can do to it is add some additional easing here.
On the back of the sleeve?
On the back of the sleeve, similar to like a suit sleeve, but it gives you that extra fit that you need at the back. So that solves that problem.
With the curvature of the arm?
Yes, with the arm. Now with the legs, you also have the same situation. And honestly, this pantaloon is very easy to make, and it fits it, it disguises it, and you don't have any issues. But
let's show the legs again so we can see what we're talking about here. Can you give me to hold her up, or you hold her up?
Yes.
The cloth legs that come down, and then the vinyl. But you got to do something to cover those legs.
Yes, and they're made this way so that it feels like a real baby.
Like a real baby, which I'm sitting.
And that's why the curve is there.
Okay.
So, but if you want to make a really fun pair of capri pants.
Okay, now let me hold my baby up here.
Your pattern is going to be a little different than what you think it should be, and you'll need to take measurements on your outside and your inside inseam. And it appears that your bottom hem is crooked, but it isn't. It will end up being straight, and that's what covers all of that down
and
the side.
Curve,
right?
The curve on the leg, and we certainly want to cover up her little cloth legs. Doesn't she look cute in her capri pants? Okay. My personal all-time favorite for dolls, of course, is pantaloons. Just like when my little girl was little, I used to love to do pantaloons underneath all of her cute little smock dresses.
Which That's great, but sometimes the child wants to have
jeans. I mean,
yes,
we
fun
got
little
white capris. This is a real contemporary outfit for the baby.
And you have to do a little
I
bit
got
for
you.
them.
I got you. I know these little girls. They know what they want.
That's right. The other thing that's really important for fitting it is not only for fitting, but for the child is Velcro closures. It makes it easy for them to get in and out of the outfit. But to make it look a little nicer, you can add some little embroidery to each of those Velcro tabs. It makes it look a lot nicer.
It certainly does make it easier to dress it all, though.
Yes. Or you could add bows to it, whatever. But then they can undo it.
Well, I think these are fascinating techniques, and you know, doll clothes, I think I've told you that my whole love of sewing came from dressing dolls. And not only dressing dolls, but making doll clothes, and I just think it's wonderful. The whole revival, this never did go anywhere, but there's such an interest in dolls and doll dressing now, and I just love knowing that my little granddaughters love to play with dolls. But you know what, Amy? I love to play with dolls too.
We would just hold our dolls
Oh,
here.
I know. It just feels like a real baby. And then she can suck her thumb
There you go.
passing. Just pat them and hold them. Amy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very
And
much.
next I have a hand embroidery segment for you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today Wendy Schoen. Wendy has published over 30 patterns under the name Petite Pochet. She has authored 4 books on hand embroidery. She studied at the Royal School in London and in Portugal. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Martha. Always great to be here. Today I want to talk about this unusual little flower, and I brought a sample garment along to show you. If you just focus on the little white flower right in the center of the collar, you'll see it. It's the cutest little stitch. However, I don't know the name of it. I learned this in Puerto Rico when I was there teaching a workshop, and a lovely lady was gracious enough to show me how to do it. Let me show you on the first sample what the flower looks like. Of course, this is much larger than you would make it, but I wanted you to see the details. The center of the flower is an eyelet. Now, I would work the eyelet prior to the petals just to get it out of the way, and that way it won't interfere with the rest of your stitches. The center could also be of French knot clusters or whatever you think would be appropriate, perhaps a padded satin stitch dot. But anyway, our flower is worked with an eyelet, and this is the way I learned it. So let me show you the next sample, and we'll begin our stitching. We're going to begin with a waist knot. And make sure you draw the flower petals so you know what perimeters to make your stitches within, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we start. Begin by tying on with a few little back stitches. Remember, the knot will be cut away after. This is just to anchor the thread. Now, we're going to do some padding stitches. Padding stitches are going to go perpendicular to the petal, so that means we're going to go from right to left. The stitches are going to be approximately 4 stitches inside. Now, whenever you're doing a padding stitches, as in padded satin stitch or foundation work, don't bring your stitches all the way around. You want to go back and forth. So sort of like a Greek key would be stitched. That way most of the thread winds up on the top of the fabric, not on the back, on the right side instead of the underside. So I have my stitches now, and I'm going to begin by coming up at the top portion, or this part that's towards the center of the flower. And I'm going to take 5 stitches. Sometimes I can get 7 in, but the idea is to take the stitches in at a fanning so that they look like you fanned them. A fan effect or whatever. So spread them out a little bit. You don't want these touching at the bottom. Make sure that you focus on your angle, and the angle is the center of the flower. So I'm going to do 5 angled stitches like this. And then these stitches are going completely around, so that you have as much thread on the back as you do on the front. Now the next step is to fill in the space. I'm going to come in with a stitch now in between each 2 stitches. This makes a great little flower with almost no work at all. And I like to do this flower
normally without an embroidery hoop, but you can certainly do it with a hoop. And as you can see, I'm almost finished with my petal. It's coming out very nicely. And you know, I think I need one more little stitch on the end. Feel free to do that. If you think you need another stitch, just because I told you to put 5 doesn't mean you can't put an extra one if you need it. There's my first petal, so that wasn't so bad. And now I'll just go to the next petal, and these are so small and so close together you don't have to tie on and off unless of course you run out of thread. And begin with your padding stitches, just as before. And that's basically all there is to it. To tie off, what I would do is I would just basically take the needle to the back side and slide it underneath the stitches there. Now, this particular technique looks the best when it's a very pale color, and I believe it's because the stitches do have an opening or a space between the two, and I wouldn't want you to have a really dark color so that you could see every little space of fabric that hasn't been stitched. So go with the pastel colors. My favorite, of course, is either light pale pink or white. Even white looks gorgeous, especially on white fabric. And this little flower is just the most beautiful little thing I've ever seen. As you can see, it's not hard to do, and goes pretty quick.
Now, what did you say your friend's name was?
Her name is Claudette.
Claudette.
So that's what I call the flower, the Claudette
I thought
flower.
That was so sweet, the Claudette flower. That's something that you have originated? Well, she originated, but then you're sharing with the world.
I'm not really sure who taught her, but Claudette won't mind, I'm sure of it.
Wendy, thank you so much. And the little dress is so beautiful that the Claudette flowers are on too.
Thank you, Martha.
And next, I would like to share a piece of antique clothing from my vintage collection with you. This is by far the most beautiful christening cape that I own. Absolutely exquisite. Look at it has a, let me just show you quickly. It has an over cape, and it really is a cape because it has no sleeves. There are christening coats and christening capes. This one is a cape. Look at the work on this. So beautifully transferred into machine embroidery with the lace-shaped diamonds. And then come down and look at the skirt. I just have to hold this open so you can see. And all of these wonderful Victorian pieces translate pretty easily into machine embroidery if you're so fortunate as to have a machine with embroidery. You can see the embroidery that comes down, and a beautiful piece of lace insertion that's used not only for the diamonds but also around the bottom of the cape. And then the ruffle is perfectly exquisite. It has the 3 pin tucks, insertion, a little strip of batiste, and slightly gathered French lace. Now I'm going to turn this around. The back is absolutely as glorious as the front. Do you see the beautiful machine embroidery? Excuse me, this is hand embroidery, not machine embroidery, with the lace-shaped diamonds, the pin tucks on the collar. And then, you know, there's really just not much to say about this. Let me just hold it open so you can look at this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful back of this christening cape. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I might add that this cape is made entirely by hand, and that's pretty unbelievable in itself, with all those eyelets that are embroidered on. All of the rolling and whipping is by hand. I just can imagine the hours that this mother or grandmother or godmother or aunt spent making this beautiful cape for a special child. Sometimes I just wonder, why did these pieces ever get out of the families that they belong to? And I guess someone just didn't value them the way that we do. But I'm really glad that I've been able to travel the world over and purchase these pieces so I can share them with you, because we know sewing ladies absolutely love to look at this kind of detail, and especially to reproduce the embroidery by hand or machine. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've had a wonderful time. I hope you have too. Won't you come back next time?